Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, I've got a fabulous guest for you. Her name is Lucia Gabriela. Welcome, Lucia.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you for having me, Lyn, today.
My pleasure. Lucia is a relationship intimacy coach. So this sounds fascinating, Lucia. Tell me a little bit more about what you do and what made you become and get involved in specifically the intimacy side of educating people about relationships.
Thank you. So I grew up in a very, I would say, toxic, emotional toxic home environment. And I have a commitment to myself and to my children that seeing these in the past, like with my family, with my parents, with even all the people around me, like my uncles and some family members, witnessing like how they would live in their life and their relationship and like the toxicity behind it, not just by being abusive, but also the things that people don't talk about, like having like different women in their life, like the men having different relationship, having different families, hiding, living in secrecy, and all these different dynamics that they are toxic and they're not conscious, and how they affect the children. They don't think about that. So I have a commitment to myself and my children and even my partners to live in integrity with how it is that I can create a conscious relationship in my life, not just for me, but for everybody that comes in my space. So with that being said, the way that I help my client is to help them to create a relationship and intimacy in their life that is mindful, that is conscious, that it provides and fulfills all aspects of themselves, where they actually can feel that, you know, when they come from a complete space, they can also create a lot more juiciness and yumminess in their life. And, you know, they attract amazing partners in their life that also they can contribute to create a greater relationship. And for me, it's about creating relationship that help me to evolve and grow as an amazing individual that I am.
Excellent. So, you know, talking from a point of view of, first of all, the word consciousness, some audience members might not realize or understand what you actually mean by consciousness. So what do you mean when you talk about having a more conscious relationship?
One of my mentors talk about, like, you know, to make it simple and clear, consciousness is about caring. Like how it is that we can live a life that it is caring. We actually care and it matters. Like where I'm taking in consideration everybody's you know, feelings, emotion, need, desires, life, well-being, where I am really, you know, caring for those individuals, where it matters, where it also is mindful, when I am fully present and fully aware. It's like bringing some different aspect of awareness and presence to the dynamic of living a life. So that's my definition of consciousness, I would say.
And I fully understand and agree with that, you know, being more conscious of our relationships. And for me as well, it embraces observing yourself, you know, observing what you're saying, observing how you're feeling, and, you know, responding to your partner rather than reacting to them.
Yes, this is the interesting part of, like, we're living in a world that we come to be in a default relationship, default life, where it's like everything seems like it's like that there's no awareness, there's no thinking, like there's no mindfulness. And it's important to become aware and conscious in, like, you know, that, you know, be very thoughtful that everything that we say, that everything that we say is important and create or destroy. That everything that we feel destroy and create something different dynamic. That everything that even our energy is so important to become aware and mindful of our energy, like what it is that we're bringing into the table, how it is that we're showing up in the wall. Are we showing up with a energy that raise and vibrates, like that vibrate and raise people and society, or we showing up with energy that tear people apart and divide and like segregate and conquer? Like, what is the energy that we actually coming with?
Yeah, totally resonate with that, because part of my education that I teach is around looking at your state 100% of the time, observing yourself, and are you in that state of coming from a place of love and abundance, or are you in that place of coming from that place of fear and lack? And that has implications depending on what place you're living from, on how you show up, and also how your partner may show up in your relationship.
Exactly.
So, Lucia, tell us a bit more about what it is you do, because I know off air we had a little bit of a conversation about educating people about becoming aware of dominant and submissive energies in relationships. So explain a little bit more about that, because I find this subject quite fascinating to discuss.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I am creator of TantriKink, which is a fusion of Tantra and Kink BDSM. And I love to share, with my client, with my community, because I'm also, I own a dungeon here in Sarasota, Florida, where I'm creating a beautiful conscious community for the Kink BDSM lifestyle practitioners and, people that are in the lifestyle. And I bring the element of Tantra, which is, is this transformational chemical journey. It's about the awareness of our energy, also our breath, the mindfulness, the like how it is that we're evolving, like with our energy, transmuting our energy. So all of the juiciness that Tantra has in storage, right? And there's so much beauty on Kink BDSM as well, because there is like some aspect of moving energy and connecting to the energy of the dominant and submissive energy, like, right? And some people, like I would say, like some people fear the BDSM kink lifestyle because of some of the misconceptions. And unfortunately, there's some, movies out there, for example, like 40 Shades of Grey, that it is such a damage to the community, even the concept of kink BDSM, because it made it look like it's a very abusive, traumatizing dynamic or lifestyle. And I would say that any tool, even Tantra, Kama Sutra, spiritualism, Buddhism, or Hinduism, or Christianity, any belief, any practice that is used from a place of lack of control and power, and had they impose this control and power upon people, is dangerous. But when they create harm and abuse, and they come from the abusive, domineering, the difference between dominant and domineering is that the domineering is abusive and traumatizing, because does not respect consent, boundaries, does not respect the other person's well-being, does not respect the other person's say. There's no safety involved. It's all about like, what can I take from you? Like, what can I get from this? And this is for me. It comes from my very selfish, predatory way, dynamic. And when it comes to dominant energy, we live in a world where sometimes we see a lot of dominant people out there. Like, we see leadership. It's about authority. It's about like being confident. It's about being present. Like, it has this energy that we all have it. Doesn't matter what kind of gender you are or you identify with. It doesn't matter what kind of sex you are or what you identify with. It is that energy. It's a universal energy that we have, the push and pull, right? So dominant and submissive energy that I would say is our energy that we all have. And it's important for us to recognize that in relationship, we have that dynamic of, who is the dominant in the relationship and who is the one is more on the submissive. And when it comes to submissive, a lot of people get triggered because they think that submissive means like, oh, you're gonna do whatever you want now, or are you just gonna go and do whatever the person say, or like you have no say, no voice, no power. When it comes to the living this lifestyle and practicing this lifestyle, or even experiencing dominant submissive energy, we come to realize that yes, there is a power dynamic going on, but each power are very powerful itself. There's no, this is a misconception saying that the submissive energy has no power. That's not true at all, or have no control at all. Like that's not true at all. Or that the submissive energy has, it does not matter. That's not true at all. Because yes, we do have a power dynamic of dominant and submissive, but there's one key element here that make both energy very powerful, or both dynamic in a play or in a relationship very powerful, which is consent. And the aspect of consent, boundaries, and the safe word. For example, in the Kink BDSM dynamic, the safe word is what I can tell you that is allow us to know that dynamic and power. The submissive is powerful because the moment the sub, for example, in a play dynamic, say stop, like or use the color red, like that's the common denominator safe word that people use for stopping. The moment that you say red, it's done, it's over.
So it's more about, I suppose,
the Dom had to stop this scene of the session. Go ahead.
Sorry, there was a bit of lag time there, so it was a bit of overlap. We can sort that out. I was going to say that, the key word there you mentioned was consent, in these dynamics between, somebody that wants to role play the dominant and somebody that wants to role play the submissive. And I suppose it's no different really to having role play, is there, where, in any sort of role play scenario, when you're dressing up, there is that dynamic going on, isn't there? Still, somebody more in the relationship is taking the lead and the other one is more or less taking a more passive stance in any sort of role play dynamic to spice up their sex life.
Yeah, and again, like my focus here is to teach people to tap into their dominant energy and the submissive energy, and go from there when it comes to the dynamic of their life. So when we are in a BDSM play, like scene, you're able to play those energy even more, right? But let's say in the real world, in the life, the everyday to-day life, you and I right now, we may be in our dominant energy right now because we are creating this podcast. We are showing up in authority. We're showing up with confidence. So right now we are in our dominant energy, right? The both of us. So let's say, like, if I'm gonna go into my surrendering energy, it would be like I will be like more relaxed in the sense that I will allow myself to just listen, and just like, for example, I would say like the submissive energy would be listener at this point, because we're just relaxing, we're listening, we're tapping into it, we absorb in, we are allowing ourselves to be guided, we're allowing ourselves to be informed, and we're allowing ourselves to tap into the wisdom of the speakers, and we are like tapping into that inner wisdom self. So can you see, like, we're like every single day, like when you're at work, you have the boss and you have the employee. So the boss will be more into the dominant energy because it's in leadership, it's in authority, and then the employee may listen to the boss and to do what the boss said, and even in all those dynamics, there are agreement. At one point, you have the choice to say, I'm done. I can walk out of this. And that's the difference between being like a domineering relationship in any area of our life, even at work, where you feel threatened to not live that toxic environment.
Yeah, for me, it's all about, like you said, that word consent, having those healthy boundaries. And the word healthy is very important in what I teach when it comes to my stuff is all around masculine and feminine energies. But even within that dynamic, I'm talking about the healthy masculine and the unhealthy masculine, the healthy feminine and the unhealthy feminine energies. So even in ordinary relationships which don't involve the BDSM label, you can have those unhealthy toxic relationships, can't you?
Yes, I work more from like a non-binary, energetic, even perspective of addressing it because like I think we mentioned before in a conversation with you somewhere on a chat that it indeed in this terrestrial world, it is important. It is a great basic foundational understanding of learning about the masculine and feminine energy because it's a starting up way for us to feel and differentiate energies and to be able to explore that. And my invitation is because I like to go like more of the galactic way. like I like to work more on the universal point of view and perspective, where there's like a soul is like genderless and like there's no gender, like there's no sex involved, but it's like more of that holistic perspective. It comes from like laws that we have. And for me, like working from my dominant and sub energy dynamic, I feel like allows me to reach out to many people that now they're feeling that they don't resonate with the masculine and feminine dynamic. We still have a great population that resonate and work with it. And it's interesting to see that there's so many in my world, in my community of like even Tantra and Kink BDSM, there's so many people that I encounter that they don't resonate with it anymore. And it's great for me to come from like a, like outsider perspective, and be able to offer the same kind of like, idea of understanding the energy from like a different, like I said, different word, like the polarity of it.
Yeah, I mean, similar along the same lines. It's just that I suppose refer to the healthy or unhealthy relationships in more masculine and feminine terms, and knowing that we embody all of those energies regardless of our gender. So, yeah. And you use obviously the submissive and the dominant words instead of using the masculine and feminine energy. So a lot similar to what we both teach, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's like we can, we're reaching out to our community pretty much with the same intention, but with different like ways of it. And it's beautiful. Like we all have such a beautiful way to reach out everyone with the same message, but like spoken in a different way, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can totally understand and relate to where you're coming from. It's just that you're using the dominant and submissive words rather than the masculine and the feminine. But within that same context is knowing that there is the unhealthy and healthy way of it being perceived and actually received. So it's all about educating people that there is a healthy and unhealthy, consensual or non-consensual way of being that either makes a relationship great or not.
Yes, and even like the definition of so personal, individual, that it like, sometimes we'll say like some people, believe it or not, I have worked with even clients that have been in a traumatic, abusive environment, and it had been so fascinating to see that they believed that it was a healthy relationship for them because that's what they knew, that what they were accustomed to. So even like when it comes to healthy, I feel like it's important for people to be like, okay, what that actually it is, it not even feels good, but like what it feels like you were mentioning about, I think I heard you mention about the aspect of abundance and lack. So if we're in a relationship where we feel like trapped and there's lack, it is something that we have to consider, versus being in a relationship where it's like there's so much growth and so much abundance and there's so much freedom and liberation, right? Like where there's a sense of liberation, it is a relationship of growth, again, versus being in a relationship that is all about like, that it feels like, am I feeling safe to be myself, to express myself, to evolve, to grow, to live, do what I want, or I'm being controlled and to come and like, okay, where we are and like what it is that we desire and where we're heading, and see like how much liberation we have to do so. Are we free to do it or not?
So talk us through the tantric aspect then, because there's going to be listeners that don't understand what tantra means, what it involves, and would probably like to know more about how you incorporate that within what you do.
Well, tantra is such a big topic itself that if you are a listener and you follow and you decide to learn more about this, you're gonna witness and encounter Tantra teachers and mentors and retreat and everything, and everybody's going to tell you a different definition of it. But there is one word that, Tantra comes from the Sanskrit that is about a fusion and the energy fusion and evolving. It is the weaving, like that's what we call it, the weaving of it. So that it would be like what we say, the Sanskrit word of Tantra. But every mentor is going to define it different. For me, Tantra is about the transformational journey and alchemical journey of our growth and evolution. It's like the path of fire, where I'm growing, evolving, transforming, and at the same time, like, whatever is not meant to be me or it's not in alignment with me, it gets destroyed and created. Like it gets like on the fire. So like I'm walking on fire all the time. It's a path that is going to it's a transformational path. The one thing about Tantra, though, indifferent that all the practices out there, is that Tantra involves and includes sexuality as part of that path. Something that you don't hear much in Christianity, you don't hear much in Hinduism, you don't hear much in Buddhism, you don't hear much in Taoism, you don't hear much, like you hear a little bit, but it's not a great, not focused, but it's not a great acceptance to it. It's something that you have to, like, it's really kind of like secret, so to speak, right? And yes, and I would say like there is a sense of like power of using our sexual energy to awaken ourselves even more, because even like for the listeners that has ever read the book Think, Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there's a chapter that talks about orgasmic energy through orgasm, right? Like the orgasmic energy, he guides us through the process of like when you have the intention and focus in your mind on the things that you would like to manifest. And it's one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about, like how did that we can manifest things in our life, like career, money, the boat, the house, the lover. So even Napoleon Hill talked about that. And yeah, there's some aspect of a power. There's like a power in a sexual energy that in many religions and culture, they suppress it because it's way too powerful. So Tantra is one of those practices, transformational chemical practices and lifestyles that we embrace and welcome the power of our sexual energy. And we actually like look for and and this and practice and learn and like work hard to be able to get out of the head, be back into a body, embrace our sexuality, destroy and uncreate all the shame, judgment, fear, mindset, belief that we have around our sexuality that are holding us back from being that amazing, incredible creators using our sexual energy. Because I do have, like, I would say, some awareness with like the aspect of Egyptian Tantra, that it was an aspect of energetic, the energetic sex of it, the energetic creations. And so for those, I belong to a community where, we have priestesses and priestess because of a priest and priestesses of these, that energetic dynamic of like Tantra and energy and healing and magic and all the things. And it's so beautiful to see that when we talk about Egypt, like Tantra from Egypt, it was all about how can we use this amazing sexual energy to create and to transform. And even like there is a belief that, even the pyramid were created with tantric energy, where, we know, like, even like, Geographic talked about, like, they even, the Egyptian has the earliest ancient sex porn in one of the temples, like have like figurines on the temples, on top of the temples, all like sexual poses in there. And they said that they, the Egyptians were the most horniest ever in the planet because it was all about sex, right? So it is very funny because like it's one of those cultures and ancient cultures that sex was number one, like it was right on the temple. And of course, you have people that they were covering up, like they don't let you see it. They have cover up, which is fascinating. And there's such a lot of like tantric sexual energy in those parts of the world where they have the temples. And it is a set, say like energetic sex things like that. I don't know if it's true or not, but it is a say. So something like just to tap into it and consider it, you'd be like, wow, our energy, our sexual energy, are we that freaking powerful to create these monumental buildings? Are we that powerful? And that's one of the things that like I like to bring into consideration to all my listeners and everybody that work with me, is to give ourselves permission to know how powerful we are, and stop believing and falling into this illusion that we are not powerful, that we're powerless. There's no aspect in our whole beingness that show us that we're powerless. It's all these fog that, these nonsense, these power, these toxic power that wants us to put in our head, like that's brainwashing us, that is like even emotionally washing us. Like it's like they know how powerful we are, that they work so hard and they invest so much time and money and resources to twist everything and to make us believe that we're not powerful. And the one thing I always talk about power is that the people that are trying to suppress our power, our inner wisdom, is because they are afraid of their own power as well.
Yeah,
they are the one powerless, and they're just afraid because when somebody feels powerless, they want everybody else powerless, because they don't give themselves permission to accept how powerful they are. Because when we come from like conscious, right, like the conscious power, and we said, okay, I'm a very powerful individual because I know I'm very confident in my power. I can respect and honor everybody else's power because there's no threat in here. But if I feel powerless, now you, Lyn, is going to be a threat to me. And now I'm going to try to do everything possible to make you feel powerless because I am so freaking scared of your power, because I'm scared of my power and I don't feel confident about my power. So I have to dominate you. So be domineering.
Yeah, I mean, as Marianne Williams says, in her poem, very, very powerful poem, it's not our darkness that we're scared of. It is that we're powerful beyond measure, and that's what really scares us. And I totally agree with that. And who are we not to shine our light, when there's so many people in the world that need our help and healing.
Yes, and that's what Tantra is, it's about like tapping into that sexual power. And it's one of those, I would say, practices in my life. I don't call it a religion or anything like that. I call it a practice, a life.
Yes. Yeah. So when you take people through a tantric experience, describe for the listeners what that sort of step-by-step process might be.
My process may be way different than anybody else out there, of course, like we all are individual. So my process pretty much is about exploring like what it is that is holding you back from your path of living the life that you desire. Like what it is that's holding you back. What are the trauma, what is the dark and the shadow that is there? Because believe it or not, in the Tantra world, we do address the aspect of strength. The same thing, like, when we work with transformation processes, we have to address the parts of ourselves that are hiding. So my process is like exploring that and going into that in depth, what it is that is holding us back, and come from like now, like, the same thing like with the coaching. I consider myself more of the Tantra coach or Tantra facilitator versus teacher or mentor, because I'm here to help people to tap into their own inner wisdom and their own teacher and their own mentor and their own guru. I'm here to facilitate that space for them. And then I can coach them to like, where it is that you want to go? Like, what are your goals? Like, where are you desiring to create in your life? And I help you to achieve that. So my practice itself, like, has so many elements. When you talk about Tantra, it's like I go deep into the dark and the shadows, and then I have a vision. We create a vision and a purpose of like where it is that we head in, like what area of your life you desire to thrive, in your relationship, in your intimacy, in your sexuality, in exploring your kink BDSM, in your abundance, or in your career, or believe it or not, majority of my clients come because they do want to have a great sex life, or they want to explore kink BDSM, they want to explore that. But believe it or not, one of the things I work the most with is helping them to tap into the confidence and the power within. Because when they tap into that and they have released all the BS and the mindset and belief about how the powerless they are, how insignificant they are, or how like they are not loved and wanted and crave, and all the BS that we buy and we subscribe to. Now when we destroy and create that, now we have a clear mind, a clear body, to have a clear vision, and to tap into that power to move forward and create something amazing. So in short, I would say that when it comes to a tantric journey, it is so unique. Sometimes we don't know, but I would say that when it comes to practicing tantra and facilitating, it's also about getting into the body, getting into the breath, getting into the heart, getting into the soul, getting into connecting with emotions. So it's not just the psychological aspect of the work, but also it's the embodiment of it. So I would say that that's what a lot of people go into tantric practices, because there's the element of embodiment and element of energy, like how it is that we move in our energy. Because one of the things like I always talk about when it comes to tantric journey and practices is that until we haven't cleared these energies, the belief and all these mindset and all these shadows, and we have addressed it, unfortunately, if we don't address this, we're not going to be able to, we're not tapping into the purity of like how it is that we move in our energy, in our body, our sensual energy, our sexual energy, our creative energy, how it is that we're moving, like how that love and peace and gratitude and juiciness feels in our body. And that's one of the beautiful things about Tantra, that help us to bring back ourselves into our body and connect with the wisdom of source in our body. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it's a fascinating topic which I could talk about with you all day, but unfortunately we're going to have to bring this episode to a close now, Lucia. It's a very, very fascinating subject, both the Tantra side of what you do and the dominant and submissive side of what you educate people around. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom around that very, very interesting subject.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I definitely wish that it was useful for everyone who is listening today, and that you got something of value and important. And, if you have any questions or if you want to learn more about it, you can just reach me at luciagabriela.com, and I will be very glad to connect with you. Yes. So follow me there, because that's where you can find everything.
Excellent. And that's luciagabriela.com.
Correct.
Excellent. So listeners, if you want to follow up with Lucia and find out more about these fascinating topics, then by all means contact her through luciagabriela.com. And I'm just going to wrap up the show now with True Love Starts with Opening Our Hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.